kia ora, Ana, welcome back. I am going to share with you what I found to be one of the reasons why I felt so unheard and unseen online. Um, this has been an area that has worn me out, made me feel like I cannot be bothered saying one more damn thing online because of how unseen and unheard I have felt. What I've found is that why people don't hear us is because sometimes they're not hearing and seeing what they need to hear and see from us. So if I think about myself as a coach, a facilitator, a trainer, a guide, a projector, and I'm creating content online for people to give their attention to, and that content doesn't give them what they need to see and hear, well then people aren't going to watch it. And I've spent many days, hours going really deep down into this rabbit hole about why aren't people hearing and seeing me? Well, in order for them to hear and see us, we need to create content, we need to create stories, create messages that appeal and are valuable to people. So let's talk about this. I was once given an analogy in one of my classes in the space that I was in, to do with marketing, about, when people, let's just say someone is stranded at sea, they don't give a shit about a cruise ship. In fact, a cruise ship is probably not necessary for them. They don't care if it's a cruise ship or a life raft. They just want a life raft. Just throw me a life raft. If I was left at sea, I would just, whatever, give me something that floats and so my legs are not in the water. Send a life raft. Damn it. I don't need to know about all these fancy this, that, everything, right? About how much, all you can eat, how many levels this cruise ship. I do not care. I will take a dinghy. When people are struggling, okay, they just need a life raft. Now, when people are thriving, and they're not stranded at sea, and they are on shore planning a holiday, then they will think about a cruise ship or a luxury liner. But when people are struggling, just throw me anything. See, that example resonates. Just give the people what they need in that moment. Then comes the next piece around, okay, well, who are you talking to? Are you talking to somebody that's stranded at sea and struggling? Or what level of struggle are we talking about? Who are we talking to? And for me, the people I'm speaking to are like me. They have results, foundations, been taking action, no problem with that. I mean, definitely have their days where they're inactive. But it's because they aren't knowing how to break through and get sustainable results or a sustainable income. And so there's a bit of worry, bit of doubt, bit of back and forth, not very present. The moment, every moment we worry with, and we're planning and, plotting on how to break through, it sucks the joy from the moment. And I just finished speaking about this in a previous recording I did, where I was sharing in my journey of back to business, whereby if you haven't caught any of these videos or episodes, I'm actually documenting my journey back to full-time business, so that people can follow along and take what they need from it. But in this video, I spoke about how the first time I went into full-time business and stayed there for 2 years, I noticed that when I was, even though I had clients and I was making good money, I was always worried about, like, okay, what next? And it was because I was learning whilst I was trying to keep this boat afloat, this full-time in business boat afloat. I was trying to keep it, going, and I had never navigated these waters before, and I didn't know. And so every moment was just about, what do I got to do next? What do I got to learn next? And I wasn't very, it was a bit chaotic. But this time round, it feels like, well, I have the experience, I've done it before, and for the last 9 years, I've had paying clients, and, that may have been a lot slower, and the numbers a lot less due to my own slowing down and having a full-time income and just having been enjoying life. But I know what to do. And in the same video, I also shared how even when I have been working full time and just, have been traveling, enjoying life, camping, all of that stuff, just enjoying life, there were moments where I've recognized that even though I did have a solid income, like nothing to worry about, I was still worrying about how to get this business, you know, off the ground again. Like, I shouldn't be sitting by and relaxing. Like, I still needed to work hard on the business. But really, in that moment, I just needed to be in action. And I spoke deeply. You can go watch that one or listen to that one on the podcast or on YouTube. But yeah, I was speaking about just, sometimes we've got to take action, and sometimes we just got to be in the inaction, slowing down, and it's the mastery is knowing when to do which. So obviously this is a season for me to be in action, in the action, taking action. Um, and you know, for those of us who have the foundations, have been taking action, and our biggest block is just us not knowing how to break through. This is a place where we're sitting is a place of needing to know how to enhance our efforts, improve our efforts that we're already putting in. It's about making slight tweaks to our perspectives and pivoting, you know, while we're already doing what we're doing. It's not about massive shifts. It's not about massive do-overs. It's not about running away with the circus and doing something completely different, because that can also just be a distraction. So, what I'm going to talk about in this video, you know, is what I was sharing with Maru when he said, this time round, just share your knowledge and your experiences on human design. People have loved that over the years, and you have kind of just been like up and down with sharing it. Just go all in sharing about human design, because people love that shit. And I stopped him and I said, yep, people that know about it love it, but still, even those that know about it, um, they don't really care about human design. They don't really buy human design. And he kind of went, "Oh, what do they care about?" I said that everyone cares about themselves. Everyone cares about what's going on in their world. Everyone cares about, how's that thing, human design, how's that thing going to help me? How does that help me? So it's not actually the thing that they care about. All they care about is, how does it help me get through what I'm going through? So what I want to speak about is the precise things that I believe human design give us in terms of three very specific areas. Three areas that I've known for many, many years and centered a lot of the creation of my spaces around. People face the biggest issues around their relationships. How they're doing in their relationships matters. If there's chaos, if there's toxicity, if there's drama, if there is if it's rocky, then life gets consumed. A lot of energy that would go towards life and expansion gets consumed by all of that. So getting that clear is very important to people when they're going through it. The other area is health. Health, energy, vitality. This is a huge area for people, probably the most, depends on how much they value it, right? But health, energy, vitality, um, if this is not humming, if this is not healthy, if this is, if there's no energy, if there's poor health, if there's a lack of vitality in somebody, they can't give much to the expansion of life. So making sure that our health is in order and that we're in the clear there is very important to people. And if it's not, they are finding ways to improve it. The third one is wealth. Wealth, security, fulfillment. People are always looking for ways to improve this because it's sort of how the exchange in our world happens. You know, a lot of the systems in our world are run by, the exchanging of, you know, money. Um, and so people are spending a lot of time and energy on how to improve their financial situation, how to improve their sense of security, and also feeling fulfilled in what they do. Now, if these are not on, if they're lacking in this area, then they're going to be actively looking for ways to sort it out. And so my job moving forward is to take people on a journey and really make it clear what human design gives us. So I believe, looking back at my own relationship and also having been in space with clients and using this model, this knowledge system in our journeys, human design helps us build a greater awareness for how we're uniquely designed and also how therefore others are uniquely designed. So if someone is facing relationship issues, then, provided they're not needing a life raft, because if there's a lot of struggle, if there's a lot of drama, if there's a lot of toxicity, I mean, understanding human design isn't going to do a whole lot. But, when you're in a place of improving, of enhancing, then knowing your human design and those of your families or those of that you're in relationship with can really help in terms of how to communicate, um, how to treat each other, how to understand each other better. We've all had those days where there's something's gone down in a relationship, and lie to me and tell me that didn't take up your whole fucking day. When shit hits the fan in a relationship, tell me that didn't take up your whole energy for that whole day, for that whole week. Tell me it wasn't on the front of your mind. You can't tell me, because that's what happens when we're in relation and there are dramas. It consumes every inch of life until it's sorted. I know, because I've been there too. And it's the way that it goes for us humans. When there's drama, when there is chaos, when there is toxicity, when there is imbalance in our relationship, when there is stuff going on, it takes up all of our energy. So the way that I know human design can help us is by bringing in this understanding about how we prefer to communicate and be communicated with, and understanding how others in our lives prefer to be communicated, how they prefer to communicate and how they want to be communicated to. So we can get that knowledge within these systems. In terms of health and vitality and energy, just knowing our strategy and how to, you know, our authority, just that can help us immediately give less energy to the stuff that really drains us and call back our power, and instead put our energy, put our time, put our life force into the things that, you know, that are really for us. And understanding our type and our authority can really help us just move through the world in a way that gives out less of our life force. We're leaking life force purely because we don't know how our energy works. We don't know how we're designed to move in the world, so we're leaking life force. So what human design gives us is the ability to reserve our life force. And when we can reserve our life force, we can expand, we can create. It's just, it's where it's at. The last one, wealth, security, fulfillment. When human design is a blueprint of how we're designed to move in the world, and we can go as deep as to looking at what our purposes are, what our path is, how what our interests are, what we're here to do, how we're designed to make a difference, how we're designed to communicate. Just going back to how I opened this video, which was around why people don't hear and see us, is because we're not telling them, we're not giving them what they need to hear and see. Well, just going back to that point, and then bringing in wealth and security, connection is so important. Communication is so important because it makes or breaks whether or not someone wants to relate with you, whether that be romantically, in friendships, or in business. The connections that we form, how we form those connections, how we communicate to each other, makes or breaks, decides, people decide based on their interactions. So, knowing how we like to be communicated to and how to communicate based on, other people's uniqueness is very handy, because when it comes to wealth, security, fulfillment, I spoke about in the last video about me. I'm jumping around a little bit. Hold on. Let me just ground a bit here. I was going down several different roads there, and I've just lost what door I walk through. What I'm trying to say is that our wealth and how we generate resources is tied strongly to the connections that we have and how we communicate. So when we look at human design, what it can give us is indication to how we are heard, how we are best heard. When we communicate out in the world um, about certain things, these are where people really hear us. Now, for the likes of someone like me who's a projector, there are strategies and that are very important to understand, because as a projector, if we speak without invitation on something to somebody who has not shown interest in what we're about to say, it can feel like nails on a chalkboard or nails in their eyeballs. That's what it can feel like when projectors just shoot our wisdom and no one asked. And that can be very repelling, and it can break connection. So knowing how to avoid that, knowing how to walk through the world with a respect for your own energy and also respecting others, helps us to build the connections that we need to that are actually going to help us move forward and be successful where we want to be successful. It helps us because we're not spending energy in the wrong places, and we're moving into the spaces that are actually for us and going to help us move forward, and therefore, you know, bring us more opportunity, which brings us wealth, prosperity, security, fulfillment. So essentially, my job is to go out day in, day out and talk to you and share examples about what human design gives us, how it helps us to improve our relationships, our health, and our wealth. And just to continue telling those stories and creating spaces that you can come and, go a bit deeper into with me. That's really what my job is moving forward. If I make it more complicated than that, that's on me. But it's that simple. What does human design do what has it done for me? And sharing that with you so you can understand what it can do for you. It's now I'm gonna be keep it 100% real. It's not a magic pill, but it's a it's a bloody handy um knowledge system to have in your back pocket. For real. There's work that needs to be done to actually live the things you learn, but those we take care of also um, over long periods of time of working together if that's what you want to do. But the main point of making these kinds of videos is just to let you know that it does give us something. It is important. My relationship has fucking 360 because of this information. Because I can see how completely opposite Maru and I communicate. The space we need. I can see how, um, what gives us life, what gives us energy, what what makes us feel alive. I can see that. I can see how they're different. So we know how to complement each other. We know how to make space for both. I understand how I am here, what makes me feel prosperous, wealthy. I can define my sense of wealth, and I understand that his is different. And we can work together. Everything starts from connection. Yeah? If our relationships are off, our energy is going to be wasted. And when our energy is wasted, it's going to be hard to actually make the connections and put energy into the creations that we need to create in order to expand. So, what does it give us? It gives us us. It helps us stop leaking life force. It helps us to it help it helps us to understand why it's important to shift what we're doing and move more in alignment with how we've been designed. So if you're like, okay, that's good enough, then keep watching these videos. Um, keep watching these videos, keep getting curious about how to learn more, because if it's coming up in you, if that curious is coming up in you, it's probably for a reason. Um, yeah, it's probably for a reason, and it's probably the time. So also don't reach out. Don't reach out. Don't be afraid to reach out. Um, don't, but maybe don't. I don't know. I was like, why did I say that? Don't reach out if. Don't reach out if. I don't know. Don't reach out. Or do, if you're curious and you really want to have a respectful conversation about how you can journey a bit deeper into this knowledge. You can have readings, but readings are just awareness. You still need to go on the journey to looking inside and preparing yourself for the journey ahead, because we've been doing things one way for a long time. And then when we get this awareness of, okay, this is how I'm designed, that's suggesting we're about to do things a whole new way, different to how we've always done them, different to how our families have always done them. That's big kind. That is a big journey. That is a big decision to be making. So we've got to prepare our emotional world to actually go forth with those choices. Mm. And that's where we journey a little bit deeper to build build those abilities, build the ability for you to actually walk this path and choose those new ways of walking in the world. So I trust that you've heard and seen um from this video something that's more relevant to you. You know, there's a lot of people talking about human design, this, that, why it's the bee's knees. And I could go, there's many different teachers that tell you why, all the different ins and outs of human design. I'm just here to tell you how it can help your relationships, your health, and your wealth. Yeah? Because you need that level of inspiration to go on this journey. That's me. Over and out. Ka kite.